What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Alex G alongside Malin. This is the A Couple of Things podcast where we are here to talk about a couple of things. Let's go right ahead. Get us started.
Hold up. All right, I only have one topic, which is bad, but I just feel like a lot of it didn't really happen this week, or maybe I just didn't notice. Or I just forgot. But obviously, one of the things that was going around was LeBron's, for anybody who doesn't know, obviously LeBron James, his son, Bronny, who a lot of people know because they think he's like going to be his prodigy or protege, whatever the word is. Yeah, he's going to be, the next basketball player from the family. But he had his prom, and his prom date was a white girl. So obviously, I already knew it was coming. When I saw the picture on the timeline, I knew it was coming. People were going to be upset about it. And I just feel like I could say how I feel about this is a deep topic, because it's like, for one, of course, the history in our country and history of our people. So, not all white people are racist, of course. Not all of them are who they are, but it is kind of a crazy thing. But then again, it's like, all right, that's what civil rights was for, to fight for things like that. But it's just like, how I feel. Like, I'm all pro Black love, especially, pro marry or date within even your, I go as far as even dating within your ethnic group, because, not all Black people are Black Americans. So, because it's just so much easier to connect with people. Like, yeah, you can connect with people when you're Black, but it's a deeper connection when you have the same ethnic background, the same culture. So I'm just all about that compatibility. Like, I'm not against interracial couples. I'm not against any type of couples. But I just feel like there is like a deep connection that you can't get anywhere else besides within your ethnic group when you have similar experiences and all that. But at the end of the day, him and his day doesn't affect me the same way gay people don't affect me. That's why I say let them do them. As long as it's not affecting me and my day-to-day, I don't care. And I feel like people care too much on the internet. And also, I feel like a lot of people forget that Bronny and LeBron, I think they live in Beverly Hills, but he goes to school in at Sierra Canyon, which I think is in Calabasas or Hidden Hills, that area. That's like a popular school that a lot of rich and famous go to, and their kids, like Kardashian kids go there. I think the Drake son go there. Well, he might be too young. And he'd be back and forth between Europe and here, so I'm not sure. But that was like the huge thing with Kanye and his argument about Sierra Canyon and not wanting his kids to go there and all that. In that school, I did my research, it's like 70% white, so it was like, what do people expect? Like, I went to a predominantly white school. There was so many interracial couples, people who were true to them, who just loved Black girls. Like, there was a lot of guys I knew who just liked Black girls and didn't mess with white girls. There was me, like, okay, yeah, I had one kiss with this white guy, but he acted Black. Not saying that's an excuse, but it's like, that wasn't someone who I was going to date. That was just a thing. But I understand the woes of going to a predominantly white school. And if that's your environment, that's your environment. Like, if he's raised around the rich and the famous and around other, predominantly white people, that might be the path that he goes down. And it's like, is it Bronny's fault or is it Savannah and LeBron's fault? Like, LeBron, is he from the hood? Him and Savannah?
LeBron, yeah.
Yeah, and Savannah is, I'm assuming, too, because they met at school.
Not sure.
Like, maybe. So obviously, where they come from, they want their kids to grow up in a nice area. Of course, that's what you work so hard for, right? But what comes with that is that possibility. Unless it's so taught in the household, but I'm sure it was. I'm sure, but that's who he is. That's who he's surrounded by. And where you grow up and where you go to school is going to be a big impact. And who knows, maybe once he's out in the world, beyond high school, things will change. No one's saying this is his wife. No one's saying this is who he's going to spend the rest of his life with. And like I said, at the end of the day, it doesn't affect me. Why everybody so up in arms? Like, there's too many think pieces on it. I'm like, it doesn't affect my day to day. I still believe in Black love, and I'm in a relationship with a Black man. So how is it's not affecting me?
Yeah.
So from a man's perspective, how do you feel? Because I know your school. What was your school's demographics? It was a lot of Black, right? Definitely higher than my school. A lot higher. I think yours was pretty mixed.
Yeah.
Pretty even, right? So what was your experience in high school? Like with the black guys, a lot of them date white girls.
Oh,
No, you. Okay. I'm saying like what were
just making sure you clip.
what were like your friends or just other black guys? Like who were they really interacting with the most?
Their own ethnic groups.
So usually, like African people were other African people, or just black on black.
Yeah,
in general.
usually. But I don't know. Like I think part of you know how kind of like the same way that the media, we in ourselves in the black community, we perpetuate our own stereotypes and reinforce stereotypes that about ourselves that aren't even necessarily true. And one of the biggest one obviously is that there aren't really fathers present in the household, or that there's mostly single parent households in the black community, which is actually false, like completely. But we still will perpetuate it either because we feel that way, or we just take what the media says and then believes it to be true. But actually, statistically, that's not the case.
It's not. Like literally everybody I know has their dad in their life, whether they're married to the mom or not.
And I think
Every single person.
I think the same thing applies to, I mean, I don't have the statistics because, I did try to look it up, not related to this topic, but this comes up all the time. And more often than not, I think it's just one of those shock value things. Like you see a black man athlete, I wouldn't say Bronny's successful yet, but he could potentially be successful.
And that's that stigma.
And then
the black athlete, white woman combo.
Right. And I think that's always such a shock for people to see. And I think it bothers people. But
it's probably triggering in a way because we do see it a lot amongst. But remember, I think we had this conversation in the podcast before that we think we see it a lot. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. Like people will, it's one of those things where you ignore all of the good and then just focus on the bad. And not saying that the interracial relationship is bad, but it's just one of those things where people pick and choose what they want to focus on. Because if, because we had this conversation and you said that there was all the black athletes always go for white girls. And I'm like, wait, but what about this long list of people that I just rattled off the top of my head? Not only have they been with this black woman, but they've been with her since they were 16, 17 years old. I just think that there's so much in this society where like, there's the assumption that all black athletes go for white women, which is honestly so far from the truth. If you really look at each individual athlete, honestly, if you went straight down the line, it's really more consistent that they date within their own ethnic groups versus white women.
Like what's his name? Is Jason Tatum mixed?
Yeah.
I didn't even know he had a kid. I saw there was like a clip going around. He had a kid, so of course I went down the rabbit hole and I was like, oh, that kid looks white. I was like, what is going on? But then I saw his baby mama was also mixed, so of course that baby's mixed.
Right.
So that's why it looks very ambiguous.
And Jason Tatum looks white, so
yeah, he does. But that's the thing. I'm like, all right. I'm like, look, another example. Like I honestly thought, I'm like, of course, he got him a white girl. But now I was like, oh, his girlfriend or his baby mama, I don't think they're still together, was mixed. Then she looked racially ambiguous, so she looked more black than white. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm shocked, but not, it shouldn't be like. Especially when these people come from the hood, usually.
And my thing is like, without trying to make it sound too vulgar, I think also there's too much, people give too much credence to men having sex with other raced women.
Yeah, as them wifing them.
Right, because that's two completely different things. Like, people were getting on Kevin Samuels about him potentially being, when she was like Latin or supposedly whatever.
She was Afghan.
Oh, Afghan. Okay,
so Middle Eastern. I think, I'm not sure.
Like that, for example. I don't know what their relationship was, but people put too much credence on seeing people with someone of another race, and then they try to push that whole like, your ancestors feel this way and blah blah blah. And it's like, I get it, and I get we want to be hyper black love, and I'm not against that. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the male mind, it's not always about like love all the time. Yeah. Like anybody you're with physically, and I'm not saying this about Bronny, I'm not putting that on him. I'm not going to speak on, and he's a kid anyway. Like I'm not speaking on his feelings with another kid, but in the male mind, it's not always like,
this who I'm gonna have my kids with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
even if you're dating them. Yeah.
And even to get into like a weird thing, like I think we talked about this before, there is like this weird, like, maybe, wouldn't even know if it's really a fetish, but it's weird thing where you feel like when you get a white girl, you made it in some sense. You know, I mean, and Bronny, he's been made it. His family's rich. He grew up privileged. But I feel like it is like this stigma sometimes that comes with it. Like, oh, I got a white girl. Like, especially because it's like it was forbidden. People feel like probably, you know, they feel like a form of like power from it.
There's that. There's also like, and this is me speaking from a place that I don't, I'm not from, but from what I understand, because I like to, you know, break things down psychologically. The better I understand other people, the better I understand the world, of course. So for one is that where you feel like you made it, but that's because predominantly, statistically, black people don't, you know, live in a certain means.
Yeah.
And because
in
of
those
that,
areas.
and white people do statistically. So because of that, in those areas, you don't get any, you're not exposed to anything else except yourself. So the second you get a taste of something completely different, then you go crazy. And I really don't want to make this comparison at all, because this is going to sound horrible, but it's almost the equivalent of like, because I already know, like, you know, racist people compare black people to animals. So I don't want to do that. But I just mean in a sense, like, when you have your dog and you feed them dog food all the time, but then you give them that piece of like Popeyes or something that you're eating, then they go crazy. And that's kind of like what I feel like when, you know, black people get money, they want to go and they get this new experience. These women that would never pay attention to them.
That they would never got if they weren't who they were.
And then they start to go crazy. So it's one of those things where, you know, you only, and like we've discussed before, like with some of these blocks, like you literally don't leave your block, like, because your ops are on this block and you can't walk this way, you can't do those different things.
You don't want to really date the people in your vicinity. Yeah,
so the second you're able to get off the block and you're exposed to a different world, like you know, I'm sure there's some people from New York that have literally never left whatever borough they're from, never traveled, you know, to Connecticut, Pennsylvania,
right
New York, and it's right there. I feel like that's consistent there. So once they get that exposure, then, you know, they feel like they're like, yeah, I made it.
That's why it makes me wonder, do you think, like, lots of times, you know, besides those, like, where somebody in Bronny's shoes, who he was raised in that environment, is that really your type? Or do you feel like it's because of your environment?
Yeah, and that was the other part I was going to
Because he might not be around a lot of black girls at all. Like,
and that's the other part I was going to say, like, the opposite of that is that if you've always grown up around money, then you're the opposite. Like, you've never, not that there aren't affluent black people or middle class black people.
It's just there's not that in Beverly Hills. Like, that neighborhood is going to be in Maryland, like Prince George's County. That's a county with money.
Yeah,
there's not that many. I don't know, in Cali where it's a lot of black affluent neighborhoods. Beverly Hills, Calabasas is all predominantly white. That's where they're at.
So it's the opposite. It's like when you're in the hood, you're surrounded by, you know, your ethnic groups, and when you're rich and you're black, you're not surrounded by your ethnic group. So you're just gonna, you know, go to whoever's there, basically.
That's why it's like a tough thing, because if you as a parent, because, you know, that's another thing, people thought Savannah was being shady by posting that blurry picture of them, like they were in the background, and then Zuri, I think her name is, the youngest daughter, was in the front, like, and like made like this face almost like a disapproval, like so, you know, it could have been shady, right? Because, you know, as a black woman, I feel like black women are more passionate about it, because usually in the, you know, especially on Twitter, all the black men were kind of defending him, like, let him date who he wants, blah blah blah. Most of the anger was coming from black women. So do you think Savannah, being a black woman, and, you know, it's coming up that LeBron had like a white date at maybe probably a junior prom, because I know they had their infamous prom picture, him and Savannah. So do you think she has any like issues? And that's why, you know, it kind of makes me question. It's like, what is worth it more to you, to raise your kid in that black environment and cultural environment so they could be cultured, or to raise them in this rich white neighborhood where they're safe and this is the dream?
I can't tell, because I can't tell if she knew what the backlash was going to be, and she was kind of just...
She had to have known a little bit. Knowing the stigma of athletes.
I just don't know if she was disapproving or if she was just like...
She thought it was a funny picture.
Or it's like because of the backlash. There's so many different things. Like, I can't tell, but I can't imagine that they wouldn't be... I don't know what the right word, maybe aware. I can't imagine that they wouldn't be aware that putting your kid in that system is what that's going to result in. Like, it would be the equivalent of sending your kid down to Alabama and like expecting them to come out with somebody that's black. Like it's just not really gonna. It's not gonna happen.
That's why, like, as as a black person who grew up in a pretty culturally black area, like it was diverse,
blessed, no, extremely diverse.
It was really diverse, but then you also had a really like strong black presence. Obviously, like so much of Jersey club and prominent club music has come out of Franklin, Somerset. You know, obviously I hit it for me one time. And I was like, everybody knows that song. That was literally your friend. Like, so clearly the culture was there. Like none of that was coming out of Peabody. None of that was coming out of my area. Mm-hmm. So do you feel like you coming from that? Would you want your kids to have that same experience, or do you feel like if you in your household is raising them a certain way, they'll be who they are? Because think about me. I was raised in that environment, and so was Amira. Amira uses that as an excuse about how she was back then, and how she had like all white friends, and how she felt like she wasn't cultured, and didn't know club dancing until college. I was doing club dance with my friends in the basement in the high school because that was who I surrounded myself with. Like my parents are both from Brooklyn. They instilled that culture in us, and Amira kind of swayed away from it. Is that my parents' fault? Because how come me and Maya came out very culturally and black? And you know, Amir didn't even know about AKA until I crossed. I been knew about AKA. I wanted to be an AKA since I was like 11, 12 years old. So we were in the same roof under the same cultural impact. But me and Maya are the only ones that picked up on it. And Amira kind of was more prone to being accepted by the white people in my community. So do you feel like it doesn't matter at the end of the day where you're raised if you're just not comfortable, or just if that's just not you? Like at the end of the day, it's gonna be your decision to be who you are and date who you date.
Yeah.
Right. Like I feel like no matter what environment, because you could easily say, like I could easily use that excuse. I grew up in the suburbs, that's why I can't dance. But nah, I might have been grew up in Franklin and still can't dance. That just might be me, you know. I just can't dance. I don't think it would have made a difference, right? It could have been possibly, but
well,
it could have. Maybe I would have been able to dance.
Environment does definitely impact what you're exposed to, what you like, all that kind of stuff.
Because there's only so much I could get from my parents. You know, I'm still went to school with those people.
Yeah, because like to me, what I want my kids to be raised in that environment. The only reason I would say yes is because I feel like putting kids through like a public school system. I don't plan on living in Calabasas, even if I had the money for it. Just not for me. But
I'd rather be in Atlanta.
For me, I feel like the public school system, whether good or bad, you know, because there's certain parts of Jersey that have horrible school districts. Mm-hmm. For me, public school systems are like how I believe the world to be. So in my opinion, I think that putting your kid, obviously you want to put them in the best school system possible, have them learn a million different things. But me personally, I feel like it's the equivalent of when black people go to HBCUs. I feel like it doesn't prepare you for like real life.
Yeah, that is a good point too, because somebody just made that tweet the other day and they were saying how HBCUs is like, it's like a fantasy world. It's like you go there and like but some of them are like, oh, but we still deal with a lot of white people. I'm like, I doubt it. Because like of course I applied and got accepted into Howard and Hampton, and you know I was my top two choices was Montclair, where I ended up going, and Howard. So I was juggling back and forth. Like I was thinking, I'm like, Howard would be a great experience. Like I would love it. But it's like you said, it's like the PWI prepared me for corporate. There's 3 black people in my team, and there was 4 before the other one left. Wait, no. Now it used to be 3. She left. There's 2 of us. 2 black, and we're both women. You think an HBCU would have prepared me for that environment? I don't know. It could have, because of the fact that I grew up in a predominantly white town, right? So, you know, that mix of back and forth could have. I think maybe someone who grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood then goes to HBCU might be more of a culture shock when they go into the real world, right? But, I mean, for someone like me, I don't think HBCU would have impacted me like that, because I grew up in a white neighborhood and I interacted with a lot of white people. You know, I did multiple sports, varsity, all that, and like I was a captain. So I knew how to deal with that, which would have, you know, translated into the corporate world. But I get what you're saying, like that environment for a lot of people, how does it help, you know?
Yeah, and maybe you just like it, enjoy it, and you don't plan on ever being around any other cultures. And this is not specific to a black or white issue. I'm saying, like, when you're in the public school systems or corporate, you deal with people from all types of cultures. It's not just black and white.
And a main thing too is you deal with people like when there's a language barrier, and that prepares you for the corporate world. Because you know how many times like a lot of people I work with, if you really wasn't around that, you would be like, huh. But like, I grew up around a lot of people that had accents and stuff, and like even school, we grew up. You have group projects with a lot of people, and not stereotypically, a lot of foreigners, immigrants, kids of immigrants do finance, accounting, economics, like they do those things, and then they do the sciences. So we dealt with, like, in class, a lot of people with accents. That prepares you for the real world, because you have people in the real world who you work with that have accents, and you have to understand, be able to understand them.
Yeah, I think you again, everything isn't one size fits all. Like, you can go to an HBCU and then come out and be fine and be able to deal with people, but in my personal opinion, I think that doing that more often than not, secluding yourself to just one environment, once you go out to the world, you're just not going to have the same type of skills, and to me that like hinders you from maneuvering, like,
and knowing how to talk to certain people, knowing what to say to certain people, what to connect with them on. If you're so used to this, like, hey, what up, nigga? Like, if that's all your environment is, are you gonna be able to code switch like that when you get to the workplace and talk about the office or something with your white boss?
And I'll say
golf
that there's certain cultures, and I won't say any specifically because I don't want people to think I'm racist or being biased, but there's certain cultures that they speak a certain way that comes across as being like, they don't have what's the word? They don't have the proper social cues, and they say things that they don't feel like is rude or something like that.
Yeah.
But for us, I don't want to say, I guess maybe us traditional Americans, let's just say us black people, that if another black person said that to us, we'd be ready to fight.
Yeah.
Like, with the attitude and the tone and the cadence. So in my opinion, if you've only just been secluded to being in a black environment growing up, and then you go to an all black school, once you come out and you hear somebody from another ethnic group say something in a certain attitude or cadence, and you don't understand why,
then you're ready to
fight, and now it's impacting
now you're going
your
to
social
HR
skills.
and all that over nothing. It's like, it's just a cultural difference.
Yeah. So
and obviously, like, I love the ideas of HBCUs, and what they were rooted in and what they were founded in. Like, of course they were created for a reason, but it's like, I just think the best thing to do if you're going to go to those schools is just to at least go to do internships or do other activities that are outside of the scope of your school environment.
Do black people own the HBCUs?
I don't think so.
Gotcha.
And a lot of them, I don't even know, like, I don't want to speak on this without knowing the history, but I'm pretty sure, like, if not most, or if not all, then most are named after white people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not interesting. Very, very common.
Very on
brand.
On brand, yes.
Who's BET owned by? Exactly.
A white woman, right? A white man, probably.
Yeah, white man. But
But yeah, I guess we did, like, kind of two separate topics: HBCU topic and Bronny. But I feel like it all boils down to, I feel like both are important: your home environment and your school environment. Because, like, whether people want to believe it or not, your school environment does build who you are a lot. Those are prime building days when you're young. Who you're around, who you're friends with, all that does build your personality and how you're going to go out into this world. But a lot of it does start at home. A lot of it does. Make sure you have that culture in the house. But like we said, it doesn't always work, because my parents did it with all three of us, and all three of us came out differently.
I have a random thought about this, because, like, why? I know why LeBron did it, but I know LeBron, he wants to be, and this is obviously no disrespect, shade, or anything, but he wants to be mogul man. So I know that he went to the Lakers. I'm sure he didn't really want to play for the Lakers, but I know he wanted to go out there to LA to, live out there. The film studios are out there, all that kind of stuff. Then, next thing you know, Space Jam 2 comes out. You see he's in all these commercials and stuff. And he was in commercials before, but you just see the transition of LeBron, trying to, expand his brand outside of just sports. Mm-hmm. But for me, I question why he sent Bronny to Sierra Canyon anyway. Because in my personal opinion, it doesn't matter what school you go to. Like,
yeah, because the thing is too, you ever hear the show All American?
Mm-hmm.
That was like the thing. Like there was the two differing schools. I think it was like the Beverly Hills High School, and then it was like something in like the hood. I don't want to say Compton. I'm not sure, but Beverly Hills is more south, toward like closer to LA, as compared to Calabasas and Hidden Hills, which is more north. So you could have easily went to an area school. Like, even if you went to Beverly Hills High School, it could have been a little different than Sierra Canyon, right? Maybe not though, because anybody going to Beverly Hills High School still lives in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Damn.
So
he kind of, because he would have had no other option. You either go to a private school, or you go to your local school, which would have been Beverly Hills High School.
Yeah, to a certain extent, especially having a crutch like LeBron being your dad, I don't really think it mattered where he went to school.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. The only reason I know that he went there, as far as I know, is the sports.
Yeah.
You should go to Donda. Is Donda a school, or is it just a sports academy?
I think it's a school.
Is it? You could have
might
a team.
not be, but
maybe not though. But they play against. Didn't they play against Sierra Canyon?
Yeah.
Kanye is so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't bother me. Do what you want. I get people's issue because they feel like a stereotype and it's a stigma, especially among athletes and just successful Black men. And also people question the white woman and their motives. Because white women don't have a clean history in this country.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Black men. Lies and using and all that. Gold digging. So it just makes you wonder. What's her motive, right? Because she knows it's not like Bronny is ugly, like she could be attracted to him, but it's almost like, I mean, you come from money too. Clearly, if you go to Sierra Canyon, so it's not like you're being a gold digger. I'm sure her family's probably millionaires as well, right? Probably got money, but it's like people love that fame and they love that clout, and it's like you dating LeBron's son, you're gonna be at games and all that,
Yeah, and that's the tough part. Especially with today's athletes, like LeBron was probably, and Kobe, I would probably say was the first one that I could at least remember personally. But those two together, they were 17 years old, 16 years old, in newspapers, on TV, because they were just so good at basketball, coming straight from high school to the league, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's really crazy.
Being Bronny, obviously being LeBron's son, you have grown men, following you, trying to watch your come up in high school and
pressure.
Sports and stuff like that. And then you have
it was even like Drake,
social media.
Drake was at his games cheering him on like a weirdo. Stay away from the kids, Drake.
And so there's so much public scrutiny, and you just have a ton of more eyes on you. So for somebody like that to try to find a romantic interest, it's always going to be it's going to
be hard.
It's going to be impossible. I think if you're famous, it's impossible to find. And if you believe in true love,
it is hard to find, because no matter what, you always question the motive. Unless it was a daughter of another basketball star.
Yeah, but even still, you can still have motive.
Like if it was, what's her name? Kobe's daughter. One of them. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm saying, like, Kobe's daughters, if one of them were talking to him. I mean, the oldest one might be too old, and the one that died would have been too young at this point. Well, how old would she have been now? Like 15? Still too young.
Not sure.
I think she would have been like 15. It's crazy. But yeah, she might have still been too young enough for him. But like, think about it. Like, imagine the daughter that passed, if she was like 18, right? And she and him and Bronny went on a date or went to prom. Cause I don't know if his kids go to Sierra Canyon.
Let's use somebody else as an example. So let's say the daughter of somebody with like $100 billion, or somebody that's already famous, like, is trying to date Bronny. Like, it still can be a clout move. Like, even if you're more famous or more popular than someone else, you still can gain additional popularity from dating someone else. Like, you see, and I don't really want to bring up this example because, I don't care about either of these two people, but like Kim K and Pete Davidson, like, you can agree that Kim dating Pete still increased Kim's popularity.
And people know Pete.
Even though Kim Kardashian is one of the most famous people in the world, somebody that's less popular still made her more popular. So
because like Pete, like, why? Like, people were like, what the heck? Like, that's completely different than who she's been dating and married to.
So to me, even if you have two basketball families and they get married together. Like they're still, it
You
can
know
still
the
be
clout is
motive.
going to be a lot. Yeah.
And you know, women do that thing. They want to date athletes for whatever reason, as if being an athlete is like a personality trait.
No, for real. Like,
So-
my man got to be an athlete. My man got to be a rapper. Okay.
Yeah. So
Like, it's for, but I know that the prime reason is three things. It's like money, obviously, because they know the money's good. Clout, because they know they're going to be right there in the booth or, you know, on the floor, and it's going to have the thing with the caption like, oh, what's the name's wife or what? So, you know, the clout. And then just the image, which I guess goes along with clout. The image of like, I mean, I'm dating this superstar athlete and we're on the road and road life, like private jet life, going to the game.
they never be on the road, and they're never at the games either, which is the funny part.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to fly to Milwaukee. Like nobody wants to go to Milwaukee.
No, but they be at the Laker games, they be at the Heat games.
Yeah, all the cities that people actually want to go to. No disrespect to Milwaukee.
No, but that also
'cause
makes you. But I mean, no, but the true girlfriends and wives be there supporting. Like, what's the name was at the games? Jordan Woods. But yeah, that does suck though. Cause I know deep down all these people gotta question the motives of who's dating them, and who's pursuing them. Unless you're like Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Nah, but that's what I'm saying. It could still be.
I know,
motive.
because
It doesn't matter.
Jay-Z could deep down be like, did Beyonce only come for me because I was like the best rapper of all time at the moment? Like,
You never know.
I was in my prime when we met.
But you could say that really honestly about anything, because you could say like,
I mean, no offense, but Jay-Z is not that attractive, so I'm sure that's real love. That gotta be real
that's a
love.
wild statement. Who keeps calling me?
Is this spam?
Nah. When where's my train of thought? Like even if you're not famous, like you still do have to question people's motives and intents, because like even if you're not popular, don't have a ton of money, there's still always motivation. Like,
Yeah.
so it's not just specific to them, but just
Anybody.
anybody in general. But you know, whatever makes him happy, like
Yeah,
you
right.
said, who cares? I'm not ever paying attention to who's dating who, as long as
Yeah.
he's not
Disrespecting
yeah,
black women. Yep.
yeah.
He doesn't say anything as far as I know, so let him do him.
And I hate to get in my all lives matter bag.
Oh my God.
But as long as he's not disrespecting anybody. I know we're talking specifically about black women, but
Any race.
yeah. He doesn't say, you didn't even say
He could
anything.
disrespect white people though.
No, we're not doing that. He didn't even say anything. That's the crazy part. But
Did we even talk about that shooting in Buffalo?
no, we did not.
When did we record last week?
We recorded.
Oh wow, we recorded after the fact.
Did we?
Yeah, because we got a notification about the shooting while we were at RH. Maybe we briefly talked about it.
No, we
didn't have a whole topic about
No,
it.
I don't think we talked about it at all. I don't think we referenced it.
I mean, we don't really got to get into it, but that's the only reason I made that comment. Obviously, I'm joking, but I'm not. But I'm not gonna get political.
So you think all black people are like thugs and gangsters too?
No, I don't hate all white people. I know a lot of them are probably white supremacists. It's just in their blood.
A lot of them?
It's in their blood.
You said a lot of them?
I feel like it's a lot of them. I feel like a lot of them are quiet about it, and they'll never admit it out loud, and they're not crazy enough to kill. But I feel like
Do you feel
a good portion of them are supremacists.